today's webinar with NickelSearch. I'm Dannika Warburton, and I'm joined by NickelSearch's Managing Director, Nicole Duncan, who's coming live from London very early in the morning. So she's very keen to talk to you. Today, Nicole's going to run you through a short presentation outlining the recent activities that they have been up to, and then we're going to open it up to a Q&A.
Thank you to everybody for joining us here today. Good afternoon to those in Australia, and hello elsewhere. So I'm Nicole Duncan, Managing Director of NickelSearch, and just give you a short presentation, leaving great time for questions. NickelSearch is an advanced explorer listed on the ASX. Just quickly acknowledging that we are just outside of Ravensthorpe, and we acknowledge the country on which we operate. The traditional owners are the Wurundjeri people of the Noongar Nation, and pay our respects to their leaders, past, present, and emerging. In terms of NickelSearch's value, this is a slide that shows our tonnes of contained nickel compared to enterprise value of both NickelSearch and of our peers on the ASX. And you can see from this slide that we represent a great investment value. Just to remind everybody of our ownership structure, we have Medallion Metals as a large shareholder. They're our neighbour down in Ravensthorpe, and they have vended in nickel rights for their tenements to us so that we can focus on nickel sulphide exploration while they focus on copper gold. It's a very mineral rich area, part of Australia. So there's lots of exploration activity happening in the Ravensthorpe area. You can see also from here that we have good support from institutional investors, including Sprott, and also good support from our board and management. In terms of where we're located, just outside of Ravensthorpe, you can see here that we have good infrastructure for the area. It's a well-known nickel province, well supported by roads and port. From a geological perspective, it's important to see how close we are to Forrestania there. We're in the same greenstone corridor as IGO's Forrestania nickel complex. So that means that we have the same age rock and the same type of komatiitic nickel sulphide formation. And I'll explain the importance of that in a few minutes. In terms of how nickel sulphide forms, this is our deposit model. And I would say that this is a very simplified version of what I'm showing you. And I encourage you, if you want to know more about what I'm saying, please go to our website. There is a much fuller presentation pack there that explains the details. So I'm just giving you a very simple overview of our deposit model. When the Earth's crust was forming, the lava was flowing through basement rock. You can see it here in the yellow, and the basement rock is holding the lava. The lava is the consistency of, say, olive oil. So it's moving very fast, and it's moving through channels in the basement rock. And as it's moving, it's picking up everything in its path, including sulfur. And when the lava grabs sulfur from any sulfur source, the sulfur melts into the lava and it forms little droplets of nickel sulphide within the lava. But it's important to know it's a turbulent flow. And so as the lava's flowing, the droplets start to come together, and where there is a chance for the lava to pool, the droplets form a larger pod, and that pod can't be supported by the lava. It's too heavy. So it drops to the bottom of the channel, and you can see it here. Massive nickel copper PGM sits down the bottom of the channel in the contact point between the lava and the basement rock. And so a nickel sulphide explorer has to reach that basal contact point in order to see if there's nickel sulphide. But importantly as well, the lava continues to flow. And so what you find are these pods of nickel sulphide forming along the channel as the lava flowed. So it's not like you get one, it's almost like a string of pearls. You get a pearl along the chain, you get a nickel sulphide pod along the trend. And so that's why you need to reach the basal contact point and continue along the trend in terms of your exploration plan. So with that in mind, you can see here we have 108 square kilometres of tenements. We have the Carlingup range running left to right and the Ravensthorpe range running top to bottom. And we have identified over 30 greenfield nickel sulphide targets so far. 14 of these targets are priority 1. And so we're very keen to be doing drilling as soon as we can. And I'll speak to more of that in a moment. I mentioned that we are in the same greenstone corridor as Forrestania. This is a cross-section of Forrestania, and you can see these pods along the channel there. You start off with Flying Fox, move on to New Morning, Sunrise, Spotted Quoll. But the important thing to note about this is the depth. So Forrestania goes to 1.5 kilometres deep, which makes the potential at Carlingup even more exciting. As you can see on this slide, this is a cross-section of our historical drilling. Those are the black lines up the top. And the nickel sulphide would be forming sitting at the contact point of the purple rock. So where the purple meets the yellow around Ravate and where the purple meets the pink around Niddenbillip. So it's you can see from there that the historical drilling just hasn't gone deep enough. It did go deep enough at Ravate. You can see it because it was reaching the pod there. Ravate was a high-grade nickel sulphide mine that was finishing in 2007, and they mined 16.1 kilotons of nickel at 3.45% grade. So a really nice high-grade nickel sulphide discovery there. And our aim is to find more along that trend. So if I just quickly turn to what the drilling is, we have commenced that drilling. We've put in holes at Javelin and Rav 8. At Javelin, we were looking at targets that we've identified through both geochemical work and geophysical work. And at Rav 8, we were looking at some electromagnetic plates. So we're eagerly awaiting the assay results from those. But that's just the start of our work program. We'll be getting back there as soon as we get those results in order to drill other targets. You can see there we're keen to get back into Sexton. We also want to get into the Lippel area, the Sprint targets. So we've got lots of opportunities along our tenements for drilling and discovery. If I turn really quickly just to the processing side, we put out an update on the work that we've done on processing, and it can be quite technical, but it can be quite, hopefully I'll explain it in as plain English as possible. Our nickel that we have is lower grade and it doesn't float, and floating is how you normally extract nickel from, flotation is how you normally extract nickel from the ore. So we have to think a bit outside the box, and we are looking to apply bacterial heap leaching, and this is done in copper and it's done in gold and it's done in nickel. And so what happens is we've grown indigenous bacteria local to the Ravensthorpe area, and basically that bacteria goes into the rock and it extracts the nickel from the rock through breaking the bond between the iron and the sulfur, because then the bacteria wants to get the energy from that bond being broken, and so that's why it's attracted to the nickel. I can speak more about that if people would like to hear. In terms of our ability to deliver, we now have the team in place. Andy Pearce joined us in July, so he's fast coming up to speed as our exploration manager. He's got a lot of experience in nickel sulphide exploration from his time at WMC and BHP Nickel West, and also most recently at Poseidon Nickel. And we have Tamsin Senders, who's our manager processing. She's got over 27 years in bacterial heap leach work, so she's got a lot of experience for us. And finally, in terms of our approach to the work that we do, we are conscious that we are a participant in the energy transition through the production of nickel, but we're also conscious that we have to be very valued partner to our local communities. And what that means is that we have to work every day alongside farmers, alongside landholders, and we have to be very careful about our footprint. And so we are doing all that we can to run our business in a very sustainable manner. We do that as a responsible partner, but we also do that because we're in a cyclical commodity, and so we have to be able to run this business in the great times and in the not so great times. So we need to make sure that we're very careful about our footprint, and we do that through ways like on this slide. We control how we collect water when we drill so that we're not impacting the farmers on the lands that we are drilling. So with that, Dannika, I'm very happy to finish up there in terms of the overview. The main themes are we're very keen to be able to really get into our nickel sulphide exploration drilling, which we can now do during the summer and spring months. The summer and autumn months, but very keen to take on questions.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nicole. So we'll stop sharing the screen now and open it up to Q&A. So to kick off with, Neil has actually asked, can you summarise what you've accomplished this quarter in particular and provide some colour around the share price? What do you think will drive a re-rate?
Okay, thanks, Neil, for the question. So in terms of what we've achieved this quarter, we've gone and done initial drilling, and we're very keen to get back and do more. We will be able to do in the coming weeks, which is very exciting, but we're just waiting for priority assays first before we commit to that, because that will really tell us where we want to drill. In terms of the share price, we are impacted by, like any other company listed on the ASX. So, I don't see us as being out of step with others on the ASX. But in terms of a share price re-rate, that's really going to come down to exploration success. And so, myself and the team were very focused on finding the next RAV8 on our tenements. But these things, to give you a bit of context, they're like the size of a large house. They're not very massive in terms of sitting under the ground at quite depths, and there's not a lot of indicators at surface that they're there. So when we put a drill hole down, we could actually miss them. And so it's very, very important to do as much work as possible so that we know we're putting the drill hole in the best place possible in order to identify what's below the surface.
That's actually perfectly flowing through into the next question that Sam sent through. He said, you spoke about your excitement for the Greenfield exploration program because of all that legwork that you've done, generating the targets over the last 12 months. He's asked, can you walk us through why these targets, which you've identified as high priority, have never been tested given NickelSearch's prime location?
Yes. Thanks for the question, Sam. So historically, the drilling was focused on nickel laterites or near surface nickel sulphides, or disseminated sulphides. So it was really focused on shallow drilling. And so most of the drilling was to 80, 100, 120 meters, not very deep at all. Deeper drilling was around RAV8 when they were mining, but that's it. So, we're focused on nickel sulphide, which means we must go deeper to that basal contact point. And so the historical drilling has great information for us, but it just didn't go deep enough.
Okay, perfect. On the program, when do you expect the first assays back?
So we put in assays for priority return, and they're expected any day now.
Okay.
Any day now. Our exploration manager is calling the lab every day. So I'm sure he's trying not to burn too many bridges there.
Oh, well, squeaky wheel, you know what they say.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any potential for other commodities other than nickel at Carlingup?
So we are a nickel sulphide explorer, and we're focused on discovery of nickel sulphide, but we know that we exist to create value for our shareholders. So we're not going to ignore anything that we find. And like I said before, it's a very mineral rich area. So, you know, in the area we have Medallion, who are focused on gold and copper. We also have Allchem, which is a lithium. There's a lot that has been discovered in the area, and you know that sets the area up well for future discovery. So we won't ignore anything that we find, but we are focused primarily on nickel sulfides.
Okay, perfect. So we've been receiving lots of questions on your recent metallurgical update. Lynn asked about the ore sorting test results, which are really encouraging. And Trent, thank you for your question, has said, how far have you progressed with your leaching studies? There's some other examples of where similar companies doing the same thing.
Great, thanks. So I'll answer Lynn's question first.
Okay.
In terms of, and thank you both for your questions. So the ore sorting, what our process, if I just really quickly explain it, we would mine and then we would crush the ore and then we would look to sort it. And this ore sorting technology has really advanced through recycling. So recycling efforts have meant that the sensors that can be used in sorting are very advanced. And so we would use it primarily to sort waste rock from rock that holds the mineral. And what that then allows us to do is we have less rock that we need to treat. It also allows us to upgrade the nickel that's in that rock. So it means that we spend less to treat the ore, and we also have a smaller footprint physically, which is really, really good. So then we ore sort, and then we continue to prepare the rock, including agglomeration and adding the bacteria, and then we stack onto the heap leach. And once the heap is starting to be stacked, the bacteria goes to work, and basically you have to feed the bacteria and make sure that they have enough air to, you know, to exist. And the bacteria, like I said, it also feeds off the energy that is released when the bacteria breaks the bond between the iron and the sulfur. And so it breaks those bonds, and then that releases the nickel into solution, and that drains out of the heap leach. And so we can collect that nickel from below the pad, and then we do some further treatment. We drop the pH, and it basically forms a paste, and we can then ship that paste as MHP to the to the group that will then take it on and process it into nickel sulfate. So it's a relatively elegant solution. In terms of who else is using it, there's a group here in Finland called Terrafame, and they have a massive heap leach operation. And Tamsin went there recently, last week, to the middle of Finland. It was freezing cold, but she got to see the heap leach. She had been there back in 2007, I think was her last visit, when they were setting up the pilot. They're now in full-scale production, and they are working very well. The bacteria is working very well for them, so it's a very successful operation. What's important for us is that Tamsin has actually grown local bacteria using local rock and local water. And so this bacteria is very resilient to the type of water that exists, or the conditions that exist at Ravensthorpe. So, and the early trials, I think the question went on to ask about what have we done so far? Where are we at? So we have done some study work on historical core that we had, and we've now kicked off the column leaching for the fresh ore that we have. So we know the bacteria works from the tests that we did on the historical core, but now what we're doing is testing the bacteria on the fresh core to make sure that it's, it works with the rocks that we have from RAV8, RAV4 West and RAV1. So, that program will take probably about 12 months to complete, but we will give updates as we go along. And the only other important thing I wanted to highlight here was this heap leaching. You start getting nickel almost immediately. So, even though the whole process might take 12 months or around about, we start recovering nickel within, say, 3 to 4 months. So it's a relatively fast pathway through to getting access to the nickel.
Yeah. And as a side note, Tamsin, your processing manager, won a really prestigious award last night.
Yeah.
Named one of the top 100 inspirational women in mining, which is absolutely fantastic. But just jumping back into the reasoning behind this, your processing method, are you, Trent has asked, are you certain that the system is low grade? Is there any high grade potential?
There is definitely high grade potential. That is absolutely the whole reason why, well, not the whole reason, but, that's what our exploration is really focused on. It's about finding the next Rav8 or the next one after that. So, but these things are, they're tricky to find. They're relatively discreet, and they can be quite deep, and they don't give off a lot of signals that they're there. So that means we need patient capital in order to progress with our very planned and systematic exploration program. We don't want to waste any money looking for these. So, but, at the same time, we've got 171 kilotons of nickel, in JORC resource. It is low grade. It's in violarite, which doesn't float, which is why we have to go this pathway of heap leaching. That is all about creating value for our shareholders, because we have this nickel, so we want to find a way to treat it. But, the lion's share of our effort and our spend is focused on high-grade nickel sulphide exploration and discovery.
Okay, brilliant. So we're almost out of time. So I guess finally, maybe you could summarize the key upcoming catalysts and what you're doing for the remainder of the year and into 2023, which I'm sure all the shareholders are going to be interested to summarize.
Yeah, that's right. So it's very much focused on drilling. So we're awaiting these priority assays in order to tell us where we should be focusing, and we will update our shareholders as soon as we have that information. So we're hopeful of getting an announcement out very shortly once we've been able to analyze those results, and then we'll be back on site. We'll be drilling. We have POWs in place. We have access to drill rigs, so we're all set to go, but we just want to make sure that we have the best information so that we spend your money as wisely and prudently as possible. But really our focus is going to be greenfield discovery. I would say that to date we've set ourselves up well for the metallurgical test work. We've set ourselves up well for the resource estimation work, and now we've got the opportunity to really focus on greenfield discovery. So the team's extremely excited. Congratulations to Tamsin for her being included in the top 100 inspirational women, but she's going to be very busy also on progressing the study work. So that will keep going on in the background, but the lion's share of our effort will be focused on greenfield discovery of nickel sulphides.
Okay, perfect. And I'm just going to squeeze one more in that just came through. Obviously you're over in London at the moment, and you've just been to Frankfurt doing a big marketing push with institutional investors, and you've got some London meetings, lots of London meetings lined up. What's the general feedback been from investors to date?
So, the short term, European investors are obviously concerned about the winter months that they've come into and the war in Ukraine. So, it is short-term uncertainty that definitely exists, but longer term, there is absolutely appetite for investment. And European and UK investors are very focused on access to supply chain. So they are very keen to hear from us in terms of our tenements in Australia, what Australia is focused on producing, what NickelSearch's role in that is. So there's great support and great interest, both in our greenfield nickel sulphide discovery potential, but also in our processing. We're getting a lot of questions around processing our nickel and providing investors the opportunity to participate in Australia's success in producing critical minerals and processing critical minerals. So they're keenly interested in how they can participate in that type of investment.
Yeah, that's really good insight. Thank you so much, Nicole, for your time, especially so early in the morning over there. We'll wrap it up now, and a recording will be available on the company's website in coming days, and we'll also email it out to everyone that's been on the call. Thanks for joining us today, and have a great day ahead, Nicole.
Yes, you too, Dannika. Thanks to everybody for your time. Appreciate it.